Right now, I think one of the most important things to think about as a real estate investor is that real estate ends in people. And I've said this for my entire career, whether it's the brokers that are bringing you the deals, whether it's the bankers that are issuing the debt, whether it's the investors behind the properties, or the end users of the people that work in the office buildings, or the people that live in apartment buildings, or rent or buy the houses, or there's always people. Okay. So I'm a big believer in kind of the behavioral psychology of the individuals that, basically are our customers in a lot of ways. What I found is the happier your customers are, regardless of the asset class, the better the property performs. So in these apartment complexes that have better common areas, better amenities, and create a happy lifestyle, for lack of a better understanding, have done well. The cities in the United States that people are happier is a direct correlation to the values of the real estate. That's why Austin has done such a great job, because the standard of living is so much higher. And, the dichotomy between the East and West Coast, which is not our focus, we believe that there's a massive exodus between those cities. I'm sure people, smarter than me can still make money in California and New York. God bless them. I sat on one of the biggest panels of kind of real estate operators on the planet this past weekend, and they're still finding unbelievable deals in New York. I thought it was, incredible. It's not for us. But with that said, I like to see, where are people happy? And so this term we've used internally, putting unity back in community, it has never been a forward-looking mantra or anything. It's basically saying, how do we create pocket communities, whether that's, tenants within an office building, the way that they coalesce and talk with their fellow employees, and how does that create a better, happier workplace to increase productivity, whether it's in between apartment complexes or hotels or master plan communities. We're putting the elementary school on one of our largest projects just south of Austin, and the walkability that end user people within the houses or apartments can walk their kids to school. There's this element you can think of your head of mom and dad, walking with, their 7-year-old holding hands, walking to elementary school, laughing and joking and enjoying this process. That image of creating a better lifestyle, we believe, will drive pricing. So the better that these cities or deals, or however you want to characterize it, the more that we can find that unity within the people that live in them, the safer that they're going to be, the more enjoyment that there's going to be, and the more stickability of tenancy, because that's what we're looking for, especially in the apartment complexes, is stickability. We don't want to release that building every year. We want to lease the building and have people say, I don't want to move. But yeah, rents went up, 10% or something, but the amount, for me, I love my neighbors. I love my gym. I love the pool that I go to. I love the color schemes, and that stickability creates more safety for the investors. It creates more predictability of cash flows and allows them to have this higher degree of certainty that we're going to hit the returns that we want by focusing on an obsession with that customer that inhabits that, those varying projects. Well, people, like, one great example of how real estate and society is changing is this work from home concept. Okay, so I believe that people need to work together. I believe in human interaction. I'm also, an English major, attorney by, at admission. So I've been in liberal arts my entire life, and I look at real estate from the standpoint of designing great communities, being a custodian of community, and creating this environment. No different the way Apple looked at computers, of saying, we got microchips and there's bricks and mortar, but what can our customers do on this computer? What can their, creativity, create? And that's the way I've always looked at that. And using this work from home, or, the reinvention of office, because, sorry to break it to everybody, people are going to go to work. People are going to go to offices. Whether that's changed when the houses we're building or the apartments we're building, we're putting little desks that kind of are built into the bricks of the design, where you can kind of sit in your, in your room, even if it's a 1-bedroom apartment, building out of the wall an area where there's a little bit of a workplace. We're making smaller dining rooms, if not eliminating dining rooms, and making larger kitchens, because that's where people are really coalescing. We as people are very tribal in how we are, and now people spend more time in the kitchen. Look at your own lives. Whoever's watching this video, where do you spend most of the time? In your apartment or house or whatever, or even in the workplace? Employees that are the closest and the most productive, they spend time around the coffee machine. And that's not a dip in productivity, that's bonding. And when these bonds come, these human interactions become deeper, productivity propagates, creativity propagates. And people just working from home and being isolated during COVID, Jamie Dimon, the CEO, has finally said the numbers are in, productivity dropped off a cliff. And we believe that that's because of this lack of human interaction. And Zoom is a great piece of technology. I think it's awesome. It's bringing, this content to you wherever you are in this moment. But our hope is that we can marry mathematics with humanity. Do the math. Great. The math is not that complicated in the grand scheme of mathematics and applied propulsion theory and statistics, and what the Boring Company or what SpaceX is using to get to the moon. The Egyptians built the pyramids. The math isn't that complicated in the grand scheme of mathematics. Great. Better is understanding the math or having all this new data that we have. Great. That's one thing, but I don't want to let data make decisions where people could live. I'd like to take it under advisement. I'd like to be informed of what that data is, but there's still something about walking communities, being around neighborhoods, seeing what they mean in our belief system. And quite frankly, we built, one of the most profound real estate platforms in the history of mankind over the last 10 years by taking this approach. In the last 9 years of this firm, we've done things that others haven't. And we believe that's because we have focused on the human element, not only internally, with how we operate the firm, but in how we've built this communities and been agnostic to the types of asset classes. We've been in 7 different asset classes. At this moment, we have an industrial project that's, in support of the Gigafactory. We have houses, we have multifamily, we have a small office building that is a 2-story office building that has a 25-foot cantilever, is in the middle of downtown, but it has balconies. People don't put balconies on office, but in a post-COVID world, people want to go outside. We put staircases on the outside of the office building because if people don't want to have inherent social distancing, they can take the staircases up 2 floors, not 50. And so these responses, because great real estate from a design standpoint should be a response to the topography. So if the land has a little slant in it, you don't try to just bulldoze the land and build what you want. You let that slant and that curvature show what the design actually should be. If the streets have these little curvatures to it, build something in there almost like the design is propagating from the land. And these little elements, we believe a life that is designed and planned well is a beautiful life. A project in a community where houses face inward and have little parks facilitate these concepts from the 50s and the 60s of waving to your neighbor, hey Jane, hey Bill, and having alley-loaded houses where kids can actually ride their bicycles. Design will inform this level of success. And when you put them all together, you end up creating a world that we actually want to live in and actually raise our children in.